it's kind of like why did O.J. Simpson move to Florida after losing a big lawsuit? Because he got to keep his pension, very NFL pension, very friendly down there. And then it's set up that way here, that creditors can attach to your Social Security
Hmm.
benefit. And
And welcome into the program. This is your game plan for retirement with Northwestern Ohio's resource for a common sense approach to planning, talking about your money, your investments, your financial and retirement future. He is president and founder of McIntire Retirement Services, Chris McIntire. Chris, we always appreciate your time and your perspective here on the program. A lot to be concerned about in the financial world, and we try to address those concerns and talk about proactive strategies here on the program.
yep, we sure do, buddy. And today's going to be a popular one here, talking about some Social Security benefits for folks. And I think we'll get a lot out of the show here today, buddy.
One of the cornerstones of financial and specifically retirement planning, one of the foundational pieces, Chris, Social Security. And there's a lot that goes into Social Security, a lot of information, a lot of different choices and options and strategies, and a lot of what I feel are reasonable and justified concerns with the Social Security system. So I know, here we are, everybody's kind of up in arms and talking about and worried about politics. People are worried about how politics affects their wallet. One of the key areas where that may happen and play out is likely with Social Security, right, Chris? Or a lack of political direction affecting Social Security, maybe more appropriately.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us understand that Social Security's got some funding issues, and I think it's 2034, 2033, where the trust fund is emptied, and then it's just the payroll taxes that are paying the bills, right?
It goes to
So
a pay-as-you-go system.
yep, yep, pay as you go system. So, it's got a funding demographic issue. I'm a Gen Xer. I'm not a baby boomer, and there's less people in my generation there are in the baby boom generation. So, Social Security's got a numbers problem. But anyway, we'll delve into all that as we go through. But yeah, we've been hearing the political candidates talk about, well, we're not going to tax Social Security benefits. We're not going to make any changes to this, that, or the other thing. And, we'll kind of let to see how the dust settles out here and what goes forward. But I think we all agree that, it is a catalyst of American society. So, 1/3 of Americans have saved less than like, $25,000 who are over the age of 50 right now. I was just at a class down in Cincinnati for, that we do 8 hours of continuing ed on Social Security every year, and they were going through some of those demographics there.
Wow. Well, today we're going to be talking about how to make the most out of Social Security, 10 ways to maximize your Social Security benefits. If you've got questions or concerns, if you'd like to look at your total plan, your comprehensive plan, or specifically if you want to make sure that you have the education and the information to optimize the decision that you make on Social Security, give Chris McIntire and McIntire Retirement Services a call, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Chris, since I've been talking about money and investments and finances and retirement, 20 years or more, it seems like there's been this tunnel with a train coming at us, and everybody has known and seen that Social Security has had some funding issues that were coming, and the severity of those issues, the size of the train, and how close it is to us has just kept getting closer and closer and closer. And yet it doesn't really seem like much has been done to address it. I know that there were some law changes back in like 2016, 2017, somewhere in there. Maybe it was 15, 16, but other than closing what they called the unintended loopholes, they have not really fundamentally addressed some of the funding issues of Social Security. And so it's more important, I think, than ever on our individual shoulders to make wise and informed decisions with Social Security.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like choosing your pension if you have one from your employer. Most of the times you don't get to go back and do a reset. So this is one you want to do it correctly the first time. And I say that because Social Security actually have 12 months, and you could say, you know what, I didn't want to do it this way. I'm going to pay the money back, that sort of thing,
Mulligan.
and redo it down the road. Maybe you went back to work. That's a reason you would want to do that. I'm 62 years old, got downsized. pulled my Social Security, found another job, paid it back, and then I can recalculate it later. And so you're not locking yourself into a lower rate. But, that being said, Peter, if it's a husband and wife combination, I believe it was 2015 they did all of those changes because it was in the Obama administration. That much I remember, where they got away from file and suspend strategies for folks. Where if a husband was at his full retirement age, he could file for benefits and not take them, and then that would open the door for a spouse to come in and pull a benefit. You can't do that anymore. They went to what they call deemed filing. So DEMED, deemed filing, which means if you go into the Social Security office, you're filing for your own benefits. That's the only option that you have.
Mm. Well, Chris, we'll get into some of these strategies, some of these nuances, because I know that the strategies that are available, even though they close down some of those options that maybe were previously available, there are still many different strategies that are open. And even if we're just claiming on our own benefits between a married couple, over 81 different potential combinations if we're only claiming on whole year increments. So a lot goes into making the most of Social Security, which, by the way, Chris, you have shared examples on this program previously where this could make several hundreds of thousands of dollars of a difference over the course of somebody's retirement. So that's money that either comes from Social Security, comes from your personal assets, or just isn't there at all. And of the three, I know which one most people would prefer. So that's why, again, ladies and gentlemen, get educated on these 10 strategies to maximize your Social Security benefits. We'll go over them here on the program with Chris. If you've got questions, if you want to look over how these apply to your situation, give McIntire Retirement Services a call, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. So the number one on the list here, Chris, one that I think that we're probably aware of, the longer you wait, the higher your benefit is. So delaying to start your Social Security benefit as long as possible, ideally to age 70, will help you maximize the benefit.
It certainly will. And especially, let's say you live to be age 90, you would get the most amount of money from Social Security by starting it at age 70, because that's your maximum amount. And then, actuarially, Social Security is built around, I think it's age 84 for men now, 87 for women. That's the life
Is the life
expectancy
expectancy.
pieces.
Yep. And you
Yep.
break even somewhere before that, right? 80, 79, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, yeah. So what Peter means is, look, if I take it at 62 and calculate the dollars I'm going to get until about age 80, it's about the same amount of money paying out as if you took it at age 67, which is my full retirement age, until age 80, and then age 70 till age 80. All three of those numbers are about the same. It's later in life when it really starts to catch up by delaying. Now, if you look at that on the surface, because I've got a software program that we use for showing folks different Social Security claiming strategies, is it clearly makes more sense if you're going to live to be age 90 or whatnot, and talk about claiming Social Security later, but how much money do you have to take out of your 401k prior to age 70? That's certainly a major consideration. How many resources do we have? And, nobody knows how long they're going to live. So,
Yep.
the statistics are overwhelmingly show that 50% of Americans take Social Security at age 62 for all of those that file for benefits.
Right. And Chris, when you're looking at this on the calculators, it's Social Security alone in a vacuum. But if you quit working at 62 and then delay until 70 to claim the Social Security, how much of your personal assets, your investment and retirement dollars, did you have to drain to fill that gap, that donut hole? And if you didn't do it that way, what's the return on those dollars if they had stayed invested? You've got to kind of put that back into the equation for when the Social Security itself is going to break even, right?
Yes, exactly. And so let's say that you had to pull $100,000 out of your 401k to delay taking Social Security, and you put the dollar, and where if you could have left that money invested in your 401k and it made 7%, that $100,000 would have grown to 200,000. So, taking in all these considerations are very important to help people make the best possible decision that they can.
Well, ideally, waiting till 70 maximizes Social Security alone. No reason to wait past 70, by the way, right, Chris? I've heard of people saying, well, I'm going to continue delaying 72, 73. No reason to do that.
Oh, absolutely not. You would not want to wait past age 70. You would be hurting yourself because your benefit stops increasing at that point.
All right. We've got a list here of the 10 strategies to help you maximize your Social Security, ladies and gentlemen. Talking them over with Chris McIntire. If you'd like the list or if you'd like to look at the strategies that apply to your situation, pick up the phone and give a call. 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Number 2 on the list, Chris, there is no marriage penalty when it comes to your Social Security benefits. And in fact, there's a marriage or a spousal benefit, although I do think that there is a widow or widower penalty on the other side of that, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We had Peter, you and I had a good buddy that passed away, and his wife is 60 years old, and she can start a widow's benefit now off of her deceased spouse, as an example, and then take her at age 60, and then she can take her own benefits then at age 70, for example. So that's an example of maximizing those benefits. I'll give you another example of spousal benefits is, my wife is on her own Social Security benefit right now, claiming and taking her check. I'm only 60 years old. When I go to file for my benefits, okay, they're substantially higher than my wife. So I'm going to file, and let's say I get $3,000 a month, then my wife is eligible to get almost 50% of mine. She filed for benefits at 62, so she would get 35% of my benefit. So 35% of $3,000 a month is $1,050 a month. Okay, if she was getting 700, she would get an additional $350 added to it. So, number of different claiming strategies there. It can get confusing trying to listen to this, but when you have a nice software program and you can show the people right in front of you, it's a heck of a lot easier, folks.
Yeah, but ideally, I guess, Chris, there's two income earners earning high incomes in a household. Each isn't entitled to their own benefit, but the Social Security system also does not penalize a homemaker spouse or a spouse that stayed to raise the children out of the workforce. And so both spouses are entitled to their own benefits, obviously. However, an alternative way of collecting Social Security, if one spouse has a much higher benefit, the other spouse is entitled to half, 50% of their earnings. So again, you got to know these strategies, ladies and gentlemen, because maybe you can coordinate those benefits in such a way to maximize. And that's what the tools and calculators that Chris McIntire has available can help you to identify and to execute on. So again, if you'd like the list of the 10 strategies, or if you'd like to look at your benefits specifically, give a call, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Chris, number 3, continuing to work additional years, even after starting to receive Social Security, does add credits to your benefit. Now, we want to caution and put an asterisk on this one that there is a penalty if you're doing this before full retirement age, right?
That is correct. Yeah. So if you're working before your full retirement age, so 62, I decided to retire from my corporate job and I'm taking my Social Security benefit at 62, and then I get a part-time job, right? There's only so much money you can earn while claiming Social Security before your full retirement age. So it's in the ballpark range. I think it's going to be $22,000 in change. So it's almost $2,000 a month. It goes up with the cost of living adjustment as well. So yeah, you have to be very cognizant. And when I do my educational classes, we talk quite a bit about this, Peter. And so let's say somebody worked up until June of the year they turned 62 and they retired in the month of June, but they earned $80,000 before that. Okay. Can they retire and collect Social Security after the month after June? They certainly can, because they weren't on Social Security benefits at that time. So they still have to watch, if they're going to work part-time, they really have to watch how much money they make, at any time before your full retirement age.
Well, again, this is a way to maximize benefits. Hey, work a little longer, even if you are already claiming collecting after that full retirement age. There's no penalty for doing it, and it adds back credits to your benefit amount. Number four on the list, Chris, and this was to your point earlier, and you are correct looking at the information on your list here. Under the rules that took effect in 2016, there is no more file and suspend so that a spouse can point at your benefit and then collect. However, file and suspend does still exist. And if, under the example that you gave earlier, a 62-year-old was laid off but then found a job in a year, so they undid their claiming. Well, what if it had been a year and a half, right? Well, the file and suspend strategy does still exist. And maybe that's a situation where that is appropriate, Chris. They're going back to work. They have that full-time job, but they've past the point where they can undo the decision on Social Security. Maybe file and suspend at that point makes sense.
Yeah, they would, call up Social Security and says, "Hey, it's been 18 months. I got another job. I know I can't pay back what you'd previously given me, so I can start all over again. But since I went back to work, stop paying me, and then, I'm going to collect my benefits later after I retire. So, you're still contributing to Social Security, and then you'll get a greater dollar amount as well." And and a lot of people will say, "Well, all right, what if I went over and paid a penalty, accidentally, so Social Security paid me $20,000 and I realized I made too much money and they want $10,000 of that back and I had to pay it back to them and you set up some sort of payment. They don't even charge you interest on it. And you had to pay back $10,000 because you earned too much money out of and then in addition, you got 20,000 of Social Security, had to pay back $10,000. Once you hit your full retirement age, they will recalculate your benefit with that additional dollars back into it. So, you need to live long enough and you'll get that money back to it. So it's not a confiscation of your dollars by any
Yeah.
means. It just, yeah, it was, Social Security was intended to start at age 65 originally, and they've made many different types of modifications to it, And in fact, my birthday is in April, but let's say my birthday was in September, like my wife's was. So in the year I turn 67, I can make a heck of a lot more money than I could the year I turned 62. From working and whatnot. It's probably close to $45,000 at this point here. I don't have my little cheat sheet with me, so forgive me, but you can make a lot more money in the year you turn your full retirement, and then beginning the month that you turn your full retirement age, you can make unlimited amount of money.
Okay. Well, again, number five, maximizing your earnings can lead to a larger lifetime Social Security benefit. Cheating ahead there, Chris. But if you earn more, I mean, this part of it, but you're talking about specifically in the year, but over the course of our lifetime, the more you earn, the better the Social Security is going to be. Although there is a cap. Social Security only goes up to $168,000 of earnings. If we earn $168,600 in 2024, Chris, 100% of our earnings are accounted for in Social Security. We pay 6.2, the employer pays another 6.2% into Social Security up to that limit. Somebody making 16.8 million is only paying into Social Security, Chris, on 1% of their income, and the other 99% isn't accounted for.
Yeah, and there is a lot of talk to help Social Security with its long-term funding issues to raise that cap up, to $250,000 for, folks making $1 million and then maybe unlimited above that, many different alternatives. And, for whatever reason, it's, we're right in the middle of political season, but Social Security and Medicare are certainly a political football that both parties have continue to want to kick down the road. And the sooner they address it, the more minor the changes would have to be. And, some of the changes that they discuss are raising the retirement age,
Hmm.
It's maybe even the early retirement age instead of 62, they may bump that out to 65 for people just being born right now, that kind of thing. Because as life expectancy supposedly gets longer, right? And here in the United States, it really isn't. It's actually gotten a little bit shorter, probably from COVID and a lot of the fentanyl deaths. Really, when you start have 100,000 people that died before the age of 30, you're really starting to skew your average a little bit there. But that's neither here nor there, Peter.
Yeah, but the point being, Chris, they have made changes to the system. They can make changes to the system. The rules of Social Security are subject to change into the future. But as it is right now, higher income earners, Chris, at a certain point in the year, once they've earned $168,600, they may feel like they just got a little bit of a pay raise because they're no longer paying into Social Security. Now that's twofold. Yes, you get a little bit of a pay raise now, but every dollar you earn after that is not accounted for to be replaced once you do claim and collect Social Security. And Chris, I'm going to throw an additional bonus into your list here for business owners specifically. I know that a lot of business owners find kind of ways to write off some of their income, which is great during their working career, but kind of the same thing here. Because they've kept their income lower, maybe they don't get as much Social Security once they retire, and we've got to weigh both sides of that, right?
Yeah, and you definitely see that in businesses that involve cash transactions where, they're that's not our business. We work in money, but it's all electronic, obviously. But you get somebody who may be a hairstylist, for example. There might be a lot of cash and that money goes in the pocket then it versus the machine. I'm
I
not
went
telling you.
I went on a fishing charter and I was having this conversation with the captain of the boat.
Yep, exactly. And I'm right here on Lake Erie, so there's about 1,000 fishing boats here. So let's pick on the hairstylist
Okay,
instead.
all right, 10 4.
Yeah. But and again, they could be hurting their Social Security benefit down the road when it comes to retirement. I get it that they don't want to pay the taxes or things like that, but Social Security, you get 90. It's designed to replace the income of lower wage earners than it is upper wage earners because you get 90% of the first, call it $1,100 you've averaged over your lifetime adjusted for inflation. The next bracket is you only get 32% of that,
Hmm.
and then 15% above that. So if you're making about $74,000 a year, you're getting 90% and the 32% side. So when my wife was working in the business for us on payroll, that's what we paid her to maximize the 90 and the 32% threshold there. It was a nice thing about being self-employed. You can control a little bit of that.
Well, Chris, back to the list here, and we're probably pressed for time. I'm not sure we're going to be able to get through all 10 of these strategies, ladies and gentlemen. So, again, if you would like this list on the 10 tips, the 10 strategies to maximize your Social Security, give McIntire Retirement Services a call, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Chris, you hit on this one already, but a widow or a widower can start taking their deceased spouse's Social Security benefits as early as age 60. So you've hit on that. We'll skip that one. Number 7 is that Social Security benefits, the income is protected by law. So claims of judgments, creditors, litigations, lawsuits, except for the IRS, debts owed to the IRS, Social Security is protected.
Yeah, or if you're a convicted felon in jail, yep, they don't pay to the felons there. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, IRS is God, obviously, so they get to set the rules, and we all have to play by those. But it's kind of like why did O.J. Simpson move to Florida after losing a big lawsuit? Because he got to keep his pension, very NFL pension, very friendly down there, and then it's set up that way here, that creditors can attach to your Social Security
Mhm.
benefit. And, that can be a good thing for folks that have had some, detrimental things happen to them for one reason or another.
Yep. Number 8, Chris, not all Social Security benefits are taxable. So if we've got those thresholds, maybe it makes sense to keep income a little lower and actually get to keep more of it.
Yeah, no question about it. Own a maximum of 85% of your Social Security benefit can be taxed as ordinary income. And so, we've talked about strategies here to try to mitigate that. There's a couple different thresholds. None of it is taxed to a certain point. Then up to 50% of it can be taxed to a certain point, and then up to 85% of it can be taxed. And, with the size of IRA withdrawals that people make nowadays, it is much harder to not pay tax on your Social Security benefit, because when they originally set up those guidelines in 1983 and then 1993, those income thresholds have never been adjusted upwards to take into account inflation. So more and more people pay tax on their Social Security benefit. That money goes back to the Social Security Trust Fund when that happens.
And we know that they are not seeing that is going to last forever. And there's the possibility, Chris, we talked about making changes to the system. Maybe they add a tier on there where if you make over this much, it's 100% taxable. Who knows, right? That is a possibility into the future. They've changed the taxability of it twice. Number 9 on your list, Chris, marriage, divorce, death, remarriage, all of these are factors that play into Social Security. You need to take the specifics of your partnerships and marriages throughout life. Very, very carefully consider them as you are making the decision on Social Security.
No doubt. Just briefly on these is, if you were married for 10 years and you're currently not married, again, you may be able to be eligible to get a boost on your Social Security from an ex-spouse's benefit. And, some people have been married twice for 10 years, and you can, pick and choose which one you want to get a bigger benefit off of if you're eligible for it. Very fair system.
And by the way, does not impact the ex-spouse's benefit whatsoever. They may not even really realize that is occurring, right, Chris?
Yeah, and we a lot of times make a joke and and say, well, unfortunately, you're not hurting him or hurting her, whatever the gender we're dealing with there. Yep.
All right. Well, Chris, wrapping up all of the different strategies to maximize your Social Security benefits. Number 10, with everything that we've talked about, the complexities, the intricacies of the system, the lack of information and education that they provide when you go down to the Social Security Administration office, they don't take your situation, your specifics, your circumstances into account. They don't have the time to do that. Therefore, they don't take the liability of making recommendations. And that's why number 10 is so important. Work with an experienced professional, a financial advisor who can help you focus in on maximizing and optimizing when to claim your Social Security benefits.
Yeah, so it is up to you to do the due diligence to know what strategy you want to utilize. The folks there at Social Security are certainly working very hard. It is not their job to do all of the analysis for you. Do your homework ahead of time. Their job is to take the application, and they actually, by and large, like everything else, they want you to go online and do it and file for your benefits yourself.
Yeah, the stats on it, Chris, though, shocked me here. 40% of America relies on Social Security as their exclusive source of retirement income. Only 4% of Americans choose the optimum strategy that would give them the most in Social Security. That's a lot of people who have chosen a suboptimal strategy. Let's work on that number, ladies and gentlemen. See an experienced, qualified professional. Get educated on your Social Security choices, decisions, and claiming strategies. Chris McIntire is certainly here to help with that. He helps each and every client of McIntire Retirement Services make sure that they are making the most out of the different strategies that we have available, and optimizing that Social Security, certainly one of those. Pick up the phone, give a call, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Chris, we always appreciate your time here on the program. I think this is an important one to talk about because obviously a lot of people rely on Social Security, and a lot of people are not taking the time to get fully educated on how to make the most out of it.
Hey, you're exactly right. We could talk for 2 hours on it by all means, and we hit a lot in 30 minutes. Thanks everybody for listening, and enjoy the weekend.
Tune into Chris McIntire's full radio program and visit McIntireRetirementServices.com for many additional valuable resources, including other great episodes of Game Plan for Retirement with Chris McIntire. Be sure to subscribe.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.